Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Um, Welcome to my project video. Um, let's see. I don't know, I feel like that 10 minutes isn't probably enough to do justice to whatever it is we're looking at here. So, hi, my name is Calvin. Boy, this is my sociology humanities project. Babies, 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 babies. Baby bear. So, I wanted to create some ledger art, and so this is my take and my version, my perspective. This is my ledger art, or the first ledger art that I've really created. Little Bowser. Welcome to my house where we have 3 dogs here. So, maybe I will talk a little bit about what ledger art is first. So, let's see if you can, please excuse my unpreparedness. So if we just go, here's Milwaukee Public Museum. This is their website. Plains ledger art was adapted as a means of historical representation of Indian peoples of the Great Plains during the 19th and 20th centuries. It says, although Plains Indians had no written language in which to record their history, they did have a long tradition of preserving oral history practices pictorially for centuries. Plains Indians kept historical records of their tribes, first with petroglyphs and then pictographs on rock walls, and then they painted on buffalo hides. Historical records as well as individual visions and experiences were also painted on teepees and personal garments. And then there's a picture here. It says, shoots a crow, takes his pony. And this is Matoni Yaluta, Red Living Bear, I believe is the artist. And it shows a man on a horse, like shooting another man. So, and that's about it. There's a couple other horses in the background, but it's pretty basic. And so, I don't know, I've always kind of been exposed to ledger art, so if you haven't seen any before, then I would recommend you check some out, because mine is kind of different than what you might see out there. But I still think that it represents a lot of the same things. And this is, I should also say that, like, this is, so it is vastly different than what you might find in traditional Plains ledger art. And so they were the ones that kind of pioneered, if you will, this art style. I've always thought of it as like a form of political art. Yeah, but I mean, you definitely have personal accounts and personal stories, but I guess for me, like the political aspect is generally these were written on different ledgers that were like treaties or allotments. Babies, 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 babies. That's enough. Go, get down. I'm sorry. Yeah, so they were kind of written on historical documents traditionally. Or at least that's part of their historical past. And so that's where some of these map pieces come in. Yeah. So that's a little bit about what ledger art is, or where it came from, or what you might experience when you look it up. I'm sorry, little pup, it's not a good time. As I throw the toy anyways. So let's see, this painting, this project is kind of split up into 3 different layers. There's the top layer, which has the quote, "As long as the rivers run, as long as the tides flow, we will honor your name, Valerie Bridges." So that's the top layer. Then we have the map layer, and this is 2 different maps, but they're of the same place. It's the Puyallup Reservation. One of them is the Puyallup Indian allotment map, and so if you were to come take a closer look, you would see that each one of these is a family allotment that they were given when they were forced onto the land. And so this is an authentic, real map. I got it from my grandmother, and when I got it, it had a bunch of holes in it. So I suspect that I don't know, people were playing darts with it or something. It was also severely ripped up. I didn't know what to do with it, and I don't know, maybe it got ripped up by me too, but you can't really tell right now, but it was in really rough shape. The other map is, you can be able to come and take a closer look at this in real person. It says Puyallup Tribe GIS. So it's a map that I got from our tribal GIS department. Babies, get down please. I know. You want to help too. What I did was I cut up the map, I crumpled it into balls, and then I put it back on here. I painted green and gold. On the top layer, I painted black, red, and copper. Copper is an important color to our people, as well as black and red. So, also on this middle layer, I cut out pictures from a socialist magazine. I'll get the magazine. I cut out pictures from this newspaper, excuse me. This is Special Native American issue, The Freedom Socialist, Volume 2, Number 2, Seattle, Washington, The Voice of the Freedom Socialist Party, Fall 1976, Return Cascadia to the Indians, Puyallup Tribe Evicts State from Tribal Property. So, at least that's where some of the pictures are from. That would include this one, and this one. These are from protest in Seattle, gathering, march. It was in support of indigenous or Indian rights. You'll see it says Ford honor the Indian treaties, and there's a lot of signs like that, honor the Indian treaties. So that's from one gathering in Seattle. There's a couple other pictures here. This one, and this one, and this one here are from the taking over, no, not this one, excuse me, sorry. So this is from the establishment of Chief Lashai Indian Medical Building. This was when the tribe, led by Ramona Bennett, gathered up and took over a, what is this? It was like a youth hospital for tuberculosis. I forget what they called it. Juvenile. It was a juvenile health facility. And they were not treating the kids very good. Their medical attention was poor. And we felt like they had abandoned the children. And so there is like 3 individuals up here. But Ramona Bennett, along with other people, gained control of the building and took it over and reestablished it as Chief Lashai Indian Medical Building. And so, after that, it got turned into the Puyallup Tribal Administration Building. But when they established the medical facility here, one of the important things was to start taking better care of the children and to reunite them with their families. There was 2 of the children that were held in the facility for some reason. I think maybe they have been wards of the state. And I think that's what happened here is like, for some reason, I don't know, these kids couldn't go to their families or something. So it was kind of seen as this like rebellious act that we're like reuniting these kids with their families. So I'm not sure, maybe, I haven't actually read this whole issue, but it talks about it. There was 2 staff writers from the newspaper that were in attendance, helping out with our tribal social justice people. So there's those parts. This is like one of my favorites. So after we reestablished, I believe how this goes is that Ramona wanted to help establish a tribal police, and so she like signed up for a grant or whatever, did whatever she needed to do to get that in the works and established, and they sent over like a bunch of guns and equipment. I don't know if that happened before they took over the building or after, but I always tell the story that those were the weapons that they used to reestablish the building or reestablish the tribe. But that's something that did happen. Ramona did tell me like the whole story of the tribe. I had a lot of questions about our tribal school and other facilities that we had early on. So this one down here says Indian Patrol, so it's like the first fuel of tribal security or public safety. And it's, I don't know, it's like painted with a rattle can to look like a war pony, I feel like. So it's pretty cool. It's like one of my favorite. I worked security for 10 years, so it's just enduring to kind of see active protection of the reservation. Let's see, so that takes a lot of the perimeter newspaper ones. There's this picture here, and this one here that need explanation. So I guess we'll start here. This is actually a picture of Dick Gregory, who's a comedian at the time. This is Chief Bob Satayacum. He's my great uncle. And then right here is actually Marlon Brando. And it's kind of funny that the celebrity face doesn't really matter. It does, but these are pictures that, like, if you know, then you know, and you don't really need to like see them. But you can look these up if you look up Dick Gregory and Fishing Wars, or Marlon Brando and Fishing Wars, and you'll see their picture right here. He's holding a fish. It's caught in a net, and my uncle, great uncle, is getting a fish out of a net. This is Dick Gregory. He's in a canoe, and they're about to go out and go fishing. His wife is standing right here. When I cut these pictures out, I didn't know how much paint I was going to be using. But I also realized that it's not really their face that really matters. It's the whole image is what counts, and that's the real education, is kind of learning about these events. So I guess I should say this. I should have prefaced this at the beginning, but if you haven't watched the movie As Long as the Rivers Run, then I would highly recommend watching that. It will give you a lot more insight to this whole piece that I have going on. It addresses the civil rights struggle of the 60s and 70s of the Puyallup tribe, and so it's filmed kind of during this time. So we realized that a lot of people in the area, a lot of tribal members were getting a lot of flack from the state and the city for fishing and practicing their fishing rights. And through losing a multitude in a series and being harassed by police and fish and game, wildlife wardens, whoever, it kind of built up through a series of court cases. And that's what the video covers. So actually this was like printed afterwards, and there's a video about this discrimination still faced after the court decision. So it was a long time even after we were granted rights and even still today, sports fishermen give us grief. It's just something we perpetually deal with. But the narrative has always been that the native people are always overfishing. And so the tribe or the state tries to restrict tribal fishing through conservation is what the fight was in the past. So yeah, the state would try to enforce different rules upon tribal people that they didn't have the right to. So the state was trying to stop tribal people from fishing, saying that we were taking too much, but we weren't. Like, you know, it's the commercial boats out in the sound that are taking more. You know, they can take more in a whole day than some tribal people could, you know, all season long. So but that's all. I mean, we're kind of getting really far away. So Dick Gregory, well, he's black, and there was only 2 photos to really choose from that are readily available online. There could be more of him, maybe in like personal or private collections, but there's just not any that I could really come across. Both him and his wife were charged with fishing, illegally fishing, net fishing, and they had to go to court. And so the other picture was him coming out of the courtroom with his wife, and I didn't really want to show a black man coming out of the courtroom. I thought the fact that he's like hopping in the canoe, you know, he's like confident going into the water, and there's like, I don't know, there's like the stereotype like black people can't swim or afraid of water or whatever. So I just thought it was really important to show him in the canoe when you can't even really see the canoe too much. But and then you wonder, okay, well, his wife was charged with fishing, so did like she actually go out there? Because she's not in the canoe right now. But I would say, yeah, like the women of this time were really strong fishermen, and they went out fishing just as much, or if not more, than the boys. So there's no reason to believe that she didn't go out fishing as well, or maybe she didn't, you know, hop right in afterwards. So the other celebrity sort of picture is Marlon Brando over here. Jane Fonda did come from California as well, but there's not any really pictures of her. There's the singer-songwriter Buffy St. Marie came out as well, but there wasn't really any pictures of them fishing. So that's those 2. This one right here is like police that are standing on the bridge from Tacoma to Fife, and they have rifles. One of them has the rifle pointed, is looking down the scope at our tribal encampment. So there was a fight, not really fight, babies, that's enough. Sorry, welcome to the gallery. So yeah, we did occupy some land down there on the bridge, under the bridge. I just thought that the police looked menacing as ever, pointing their guns at us. So you can't even really see it. And you know, had I known that I was going to put as much paint on these as I was going to, then you know, I would have saved room so you could actually see the stuff. So that just goes, it's not how I originally intended it, but I think it's still a really strong, beautiful, powerful piece. I love it. We've covered all the pictures, we covered the maps. So the back layer. This was just a normal canvas when I got it. I went through a lot of paint to go through it. Well, maybe we should finish with this other map. So these are just the same as this, as I've kind of said before. They're just kind of torn up and apart. They kind of go in order. So if you were to take a closer look at it, you can see like this bridge piece here connects over here. The river kind of pretty much goes this way. So the one piece that is really kind of skewed is this one. So you could see how these blue writings are kind of going pointed up that way. The river is supposed to pretty much follow that. And these two kind of go together, and that's this part, and these kind of go together, which is this part. This part right here would be around here. So this is kind of like this triangle, this one is this triangle, and that's that over here, so this is over here. This one is really skewed as well. I guess all of these are, but part of it was trying to accommodate the back layer here, and I'll talk about that in a second. So when you do take a closer look at this, then just know you can kind of see. My house is right here, somewhere under this dot. Yeah. It's 38th and Howe. So that's kind of the map pieces. I just did want to explain that they do kind of go in order, but they're just spread out. Now for the back layer, when I got this, I just wanted to use my own paints that I had at the house, and I do have a fair bit of them, but I kind of ran out. So I used one tube like this of white, and you couldn't really tell, so I put one tube of gray, and that didn't cover everything. Then I put one tube of red, and that was just trying to get a base layer, and one tube of this could just not cover the whole thing as much as I tried. So we did white, gray, red, and then I went and got these two large tubes. These are 8.4. We had these two. One was red and one was yellow. So the plan was to make the middle piece, the centerpiece, red, and then put yellow around the outside. And then I was gonna make like little triangles that were gonna represent flames. And that kind of went out the window, and I started to do other stuff. I was gonna have like a little flame symbol in the middle, and I will put a picture of just the canvas before I started layering this other stuff on, so you can see what I had originally painted. So let's see. I actually did what I wanted to do, which was get the centerpiece red and then get the outside yellow. But as I started to progress past that, I started to make changes to what I wanted to do. And there's actually a big infinity sign right here. And then there's a couple flame that are like right here. There's a triangle that's probably right around here. And then there's three kind of flames on that side. The middle part kind of comes up and flowers and crosses out. So I don't know, you'll be able to see it when I put it on the screen. So I wanted to, I called the original whatever I painted down below, I called it Medicine Creek, since this is ledger art. This is based on the Medicine Creek Treaty. And the treaty was signed in 1855 by Washington Territorial Governor Isaac Stevens. It said something as long as the rivers run, as long as the tide flows, as long as the sun shines, you will have fish and game and something for your frying pans and timber for your lodges, and that was like kind of part of it. But as we'll talk about later and shortly, I'll describe why I changed the wording. So still talking about the canvas layer, there's the infinity symbol, there's the triangle, which represents the mountain, and then there's these sort of flames or these rivers that come off of it. And so it's a fire, but it's also like my interpretation of the treaty and maybe what it represents or whatever. I can't even remember how I got it like so dark brown. It was through a mixture of just the different colors. I started to mix the red and the yellow after I established that background, and I started to add other colors in. I basically had a dark brown and a light brown, and that's how I was able to get these different colors. I mean, you have to look past all this bull caca to really look at the background, and like you can't even really see it anyways. But there's just, I don't know, it was really strong image, and I knew that after I had finished painting it that I couldn't continue with the idea that I wanted, and so I had to make a compromise. And so I tried to let the best parts stand out. So these pieces that you do see in between are some of the best, or the best way that I could preserve them. I should also say that I accidentally spelled Valerie's name wrong, and I didn't notice, and so that's why I had to black out these images, or paint the black behind it, and I can explain that more later. So I painted the Medicine Creek Treaty down below, just through using these colors. And then I put the maps, and then the plan was to put these words. It wasn't, so yeah, I talked about not wanting to have the map spread out, so it's still like retains a lot of the elements that I wanted to do, but it's also just vastly different than the original. Let's see. Oh, you can see around the land pieces, we can talk about this part. So I painted green and then gold because green represents land. It also represents money, and so does gold. Also probably this, I don't know when the American dollar was established, but this could also, it could go back to maybe when things were still backed by gold. I really just wanted to work with gold and silver. It wasn't until later on that I thought that I could add copper and make it look good. So yeah, copper is just a really important metal to our people, to my people. I painted a fish here and the sun here. So now we can talk about, now that we understand all of the elements, and that if we were to look at other ledger art, then we can still see some differences, right? So in other ledger art, you'll see that there's like people's sign. They'll have people's names in the background, and sometimes those names are added by the artist, or sometimes those names are just from the historical documents. So there's reason to believe that people, the indigenous people, didn't sign the Medicine Creek Treaty. And so if I'm going to do art, ledger art, that's based on the Medicine Creek, then I have to call into question whether I'm going to include names that are going to be part of that or whatever. How do I do that? How do I represent? There's question. I don't think we ever signed it, because as far as I can tell, that's the whole reason why Chief Lush and I went to war. And that's why, so when trying to understand the Medicine Creek Treaty, this is the second treaty that was tried to apply to the people of our area, and our people did not settle for whatever they were trying to offer, and I don't think they were trying to settle for the Medicine Creek Treaty either. I think that their X's were forged. So the treaty was negotiated over 3 days. December 24th, December 25th, and then it got signed on December 26th of 1855. Baby bear, you can't be growling in the background. And so that kind of addresses that part. So why did I change the words? If you watch As Long as the River Runs, rivers, now that I've before I started on this project, I just thought it was as long as the river runs. But it was through watching this documentary like 30 times that it's rivers. So, and watching as long as the rivers run, there's a young girl in there, and she's not from Puyallup tribe, she's from Nisqually. But her family was like one of, part of the main resistance against the state, and they were the ones that were really fighting against the state. They kept fishing, they kept exercising their fishing right, and if one of their family members went to jail for fishing, then the rest of the family would go out fishing, and they would just keep fishing to let the state know they weren't going to give up their right. And it costs a lot of money. The state would constantly seize net and equipment and boats, whatever. The state would take whatever they can. And Valerie was really aggressive towards them, and you can even see in the video, like she's like clubbing them with something, probably like a stick that they keep, and one day after she was working in the strawberry fields, she went home and she probably went for a swim in the river, and she never went home, and the family got concerned and started looking for her, and they found her at the river, and they don't know what happened. But through talking with Ramona Bennett and her husband, they seem to believe that she was murdered. So I couldn't write all that stuff out about the treaty and, knowing that there's plenty of evidence to support the tribes, not wanting to give up their land, to not give up, all this stuff. I think that, because whatever they tried to put us on before, and our reservation is small. If you look at Puyallup Tribe Reservation and you look at other reservations, it is teeny tiny, and it's not. Our reservation is illegally occupied. They stole the land from us, so they forced us on the land, and then they started to give it away and sell it off. So it's really ridiculous. Get out of here, Mr. Fly. My house is on the reservation, but I have to buy it back from whoever owned this before me. I don't know. How did this get transferred into somebody else's names? How did it get taken away from the tribe? I don't know. This is the world that I live in now. So that's what kind of makes everything. Sorry, I got like something in my mouth. Some dog hair or something. Boys, that's what happens when you have 3 puppy dogs. Oh, sorry. Excuse our sponsor break. So let's see. We talked about those. Oh, you didn't talk about the blue and the silver. So this is silver and blue. I wanted to put those, like, blue is the water. It's the flashing lights. It's space, the moon. So I just thought it was really contrasting to these other colors, like day and night. And I really planned these out. Like, I knew that I painted it black first, and then green, and then gold. On the photos, I painted it white, and then blue, and then silver. So there's lots of intentional layering. Wherever it is. I think, is that about it?
Sorry, I didn't understand that.
Oh, thank you. We kind of talked about all those different things. We talked about why my ledger art is different. I guess, I could talk about my sources. And then what I recommend. I don't even know how. Are we still recording? We are still recording, okay. Thank you for confirming. Okay, baby bear. Let's try and bring up our annotated bibliography. Oops. Okay. So I have As Long as the River Runs. That's the film that this is based off of. It's historical. I would say it's a historical Northwest document, film, video, whatever you want to call it. You can find all of these at salmondefense.org. There's Shadow of the Salmon, and that's a great introduction to just the Pacific Northwest indigenous life. So it's about a Lakota boy that comes over to learn about his family, and it's told in like a documentary style. There's Indigenous History Now YouTube channel, video, the civil rights struggle of the Pacific Northwest, the fishing wars. I kind of struggle with the name of the video and the name of the channel, but that's a whole other thing. They pretty much only cover the Bolt decision, but it doesn't, and they don't talk about the reestablishment of the Puyallup tribe. They don't talk about Alcatraz. They don't talk about Daybreak Star. So while it does say the civil rights struggle of the Pacific Northwest, it's not all encompassing. It does leave out a lot of major events. It's also told from a it's told from a white perspective. So as an indigenous person, you have to go into it with critical thinking and understanding that they're just regurgitating a lot of historical academic bullshit. And so just because it's said in that video, it doesn't mean that's what it is. This is just a white person's interpretation of our history, and I think that if you're really interested in indigenous history, then you should probably talk to an indigenous person. But for the most part, they cover in great detail a lot of the fishing wars, and that is like the other part of the title, the civil rights struggle of the Pacific Northwest, the fishing wars. But the video is mainly focused on the fishing wars. I think they do a great job of explaining what happened in the Squally Reservation, which doesn't get talked about enough. After that, there is a Bolt decision in the movements of the American Mosaic, Encyclopedia of the American Indian Movement. So this is like one of my academic articles, I guess. This is a very brief summary of the Bolt decision, or the ruling in the matter of United States v. Washington, 1974. Judge Bolt's 130-page ruling is summarized into less than a page. This retells many of the major points in the judge's ruling. I didn't know if I should add some of those. I mean, I could probably quote it in the whole page and it might be fine. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's really brief, but it hits on a lot of the same major topics as Indigenous History Now's video. Next, we have tribal curriculum, mining, and teachings of contemporary Indigenous issues, multicultural perspectives. And so this is about implementing like Indigenous, how to introduce like Indigenous teaching ways or topics, or how to make Indigenous relevant to the classroom. And I think it's really important because it's kind of like what like, I don't know. I mean, I think for me it's like the main idea of the piece. Like, Indigenous history is important, and this is why it's important, is because it sets a historical precedent of how the law can be interpreted for everybody else. And even though my people may not have signed the Medicine Creek Treaty, we are still imposed, like, it's whatever it is imposed upon us. So that's just like trying to deal with that. So I don't know. I guess that's where I don't know. It's like it's weird kind of learning that there's issues, like so many issues with the Medicine Creek Treaty and what happened to Chief Seattle, or Chief
CL, and he was chief of the Duwamish and the Suquamish tribes. So I was right and Dr. Cho was right. Yes, so please incorporate tribal critical theory in the classroom. There's another video, Back to the River, and so this talks about, this talks about the fishing wars. Excuse me. I was thinking that I should have prefaced my whole video by saying my piece is about the fishing wars. So this is more interviews that happened from the 70s onwards, or 60s and 70s onwards. So it's meant as a supplementary piece to As Long as the River Runs. I also included on here, I guess this is an extra. It could be alternative or whatever, but the United States versus the state of Washington, 1974, Judge Bolt's decision. I think the fact that it's 130 pages is pretty substantial and goes into great detail what about indigenous history and sort of his interpretation of how the treaties, I guess it'd be his interpretation of the history, the use of different fishing tools, stations, locations. Apparently he studied for a long time and listened to a lot of elders. So Judge Bolt was known as a conservative and indigenous people of the time were considering appealing the judge that was appointed, Judge Bolt, in hopes of trying to get maybe somebody that would be more lenient, because Bolt was known to not really like the anti-war protesters, so they weren't really confident, or the indigenous people of the time weren't really confident and weren't sure what to expect from Judge Bolt. But he was known to let the elders talk on, even though the prosecutors or whatever, even though they didn't like it, the other side of the court people. So let's see, those are all those. The other one, so let's see. My next reference is Robert Upham, 1806 Green Snake Ledger. So this was just the visual representation that I chose. Robert Upham is a local artist, but he's a Lakota native. He just lives over here. He has some ledger art up at South Puget Sound Community College. He's an artist, activist, all around great dude.
next one is The Lawyer in Indian Country, a memoir. So this was a person that served on the, I guess it would be the defense council. He served for the indigenous side. Yeah, he was the defense. I think that's, I don't know. You would think I would know more about the court case and things like that. But all I know is he represented, I think he represented Suquamish, or maybe it was Squaxin. But yeah, I thought it was great because it provides deep insight to what's happening in the courtroom, and just helps to, I don't know, my brain's kind of fried at this, but those were my whatever you want to call it, annotated bibliography resources. So there's actually like a bunch, and I started to put together a huge YouTube video list, playlist. If you want to know more about the fishing wars, then I suggest going to salmondefense.org, and so I would watch As Long as the River Runs, Back to the River, and then the Indigenous History Now video. And with that and a little bit of critical thinking, and you can really put into perspective what happened. I think just watching As Long as the Rivers Run, like when I watch it, now it's just like watching a cold case file. Because over the course of this, I didn't know everything like going in. I just wanted to do ledger art and like, oh my gosh, you don't even know. I was gonna put this fish on there. Hopefully you can see this. So this is a Pokemon, but it's done in a coastal Salish art style. This is a magic carp, and I was gonna finish this and get it all colored out and everything, and that was gonna be like one of the main centerpieces, but that's a totally different project now. So I guess I could talk about this green. Yesterday I started I guess I didn't feel done. At one point, like I thought I was done and I could be done and I kind of want to be done, but I've decided to keep painting. So I have plenty of paint left over. So I'll probably repaint, do another layer of green on here, maybe do a little bit of green on top. And we can see how the river is, and it kind of goes up this way. So I was going to paint the river in there, and then I was going to paint the river off of here. And here's the Puyallup River on this map. So I was going to paint the Puyallup River on that map. So then we'll have the land, the river, and whatever else, you know. I don't know what to do with the rest of the paint. So yeah. I just I don't know. I've kind of talked about everything. I've talked about the different elements. I talked about the mess ups. I really enjoy the layers. So is this where I just talk about like what I like, and like everything is super intentional. Everything. everything. Everything is really intentional. Like, I didn't want to make like a perfect painting. I didn't want to like make everything super gold. I wanted the green to stick out. I wanted the green to be lighter in some places. I wanted the silver to be darker in some places. So, as far as I can say is like, as I got more into it, then I started to make everything more intentional, and I think that it could look fine if you went back and redid this and had it better, so maybe some of these elements are more clear, but I don't like having a clear picture of Marlon Brando doesn't make the piece better. You know, like this is here just for a teaching element. This is here for a teaching element. Oh, do you want to know the teaching element here? You want to talk about colorism? Marlon Brando didn't get sentenced to doing any time. He didn't go to jail. He wanted to go to jail, but the city wouldn't prosecute him. But you know who they did prosecute? The black man and the black woman. No problem. Does it matter he's a famous comedian and he's a famous actor? I don't know. He's also dark-skinned, brother. I think his wife is kind of dark too, so I don't know. Maybe he's not. But there's that. I chose black and red and copper because black and red is really popular for tribal art in the Pacific Northwest, and so is copper and laying copper, so that's why I put those elements together like that. I think that's it. I think that's everything. I tried to preserve space from the back. I did what I could. We have a historical allotment map. We have a modern day map that shows a reservation. There's different tribal properties you can see that have the blue star on it or have a blue title. We got the reestablishment. We got people fighting for recognition by the president, tribal security, whatever's. Tribal ledger art.